more cozy situation. So that's what we hope everybody was able to experience for Thanksgiving this year, and really every year. Let's face it. We are not going to talk about football. This is Horts and Sports, but we're not going to talk about sports today, except for this one thing. I have said a lot of things in my life, particularly because when the Saints were invented, my daddy quit being a Dallas Cowboys fan so that he could root for the Saints. I have to tell you, Dak Prescott looked better this week than I've seen him in years. I was so happy to watch that game. That was fun. So whatever he's doing, I say y'all go do some more of that, because that worked out really well. But that's literally all I have to say. The rest of it is yet to be determined, or something way over my pay grade. So I do have an update for you. The first thing is that Ken Hackman will be back in again one day in December, and I thank him so much. Y'all have so much fun. He's a great host, and you're a wonderful foil for him, Lance. It's a delight to hear y'all.
It's fun because, I love birds. I really do. And he's able to take birding and parlay that into so many other interesting topics, which makes it such a fun couple of hours.
It attaches to everything. And well, y'all know I've told this before, but it's the truth. He can identify birds in your yard over the telephone, okay?
What did it sound like again? Yeah.
He's that good. You hold your phone up and he tells you, what's going on. So anyway, thanks to him so much, and he'll be back one day in December as well. I think we'll get Mark Patrick back one more time in December with us. I'm not sure what date that will be, but we're working on that too, and I trust that he will want to hear this one this morning. He's probably on his way to yet another job, but our emerald ash borer story has a follow-up. Yes, we got that they found one in found a sighting in Mississippi of this devastating creature. But everybody hates the algorithms until they bring you things you want. And I really like the fact that I don't have to look too hard, but after I've done one thing, looked up one story about emerald ash borers, now every day I get another story. So I kind of like that. The good news is that at Cornell, which is one of the best horticulture schools in the world, they have been, here's the term for you today, folks. It's a lingering species, a lingering tree, in this case, a lingering ash, okay? Specifically, a lingering black ash. What in the world does that mean? Well, if you don't happen to know, because I didn't, lingering means that it survived the Holocaust of that particular species. If you were able, for example, if you turned a corner and there was an actual stegosaurus, you would know that that was a lingering stegosaurus that had survived the dinosaur, eradication. In the case of the emerald ash borer, there are a few trees in each stand that they do not eat. So those are called lingering because they remain after the others are dead. I think they ought to be called champions myself, but they didn't ask me. So these are the ones that they are breeding in an attempt to find a way to still have black, white, and green ash trees without emerald ash borers tearing them apart. Well, the good news is Cornell's got, they found several resistant trees in the natural areas. Those are the ones called lingering. And they have managed to propagate they're hoping to propagate from about 50 different unique parents so they can then see how those trees make it. This is that long-term process. The people who are starting this could easily not see their work come to fruition. It takes such a long time to do these things. But in this case, they have managed to, over the years now, they have gotten two that they're able to plant. The Nature Conservancy supports this research. Cornell University supports this research. And they have actually planted two. They've got two growing at the Cornell Botanic Garden, and we are all in hopes that they will do well, and then they can propagate those, and we will have our ash trees. Hopefully they'll also be able to get a green and a white to propagate. Now that they've got the black lingering, we need the others. So that's good news. That's big news for us, and just something that we might not know if we didn't take a look and find out. So that's to start us off today. I know that there's always something else going on in this world, and in my world, I just always love hearing from Lyman in Monticello. What have you got there, Lyman? Interesting. I'm gonna look that up and tell you what it is at some point this morning. I almost Well, I'm not going to guess. It's too early in the morning for me to start guessing, but I'll find out what it is. Pretty tree, though, Lyman. Thank you for sending that to us today. Really, really nice. Really super. Let me give you a little information about this world we're in today. It is indeed the point in the year where enough things are changing that we always talk about. Look around. When the leaves fall, you can sometimes find out what you need to do for that particular tree. For example, you may see that there's a snag way up in the top that you want to leave for the wildlife, or you may see that there's one that you don't want to leave. So in that case, you'll need to do some pruning. You can also identify, of course, some trees that are seedling trees that are never going to make it, that are actually in many ways reducing your stand. You know, we want to have a thicket. I'm really leaning this towards working on your wildlife habitat. And small trees that are scrubby can become a thicket and be a very happy, wonderful place for an assortment of wildlife to rest and even nest. But if the trees are not doing that, if you've got a couple specimen trees and then a bunch of crummy ones that have just sort of seedlings or something that have come up over there, you probably want to go ahead and take those. The wintertime is the time to take those. I'm not saying don't use the material that you harvest. That certainly can be wattled, or a thin tree trunk can also, frankly, turn into some really neat arches and things, and even turn into cloche holders. We see people do that sort of stuff with what they harvest all the time. The whole business of making a wattle fence comes from this kind of practice. But if you do it now, you can also see what the rest of the property is going to look like and begin to make some plans for the next year or two in your garden, what you want to do back there. I think those things are very, very important to take a look at. Today, though, I do hope that everybody recognizes that as you walk around in this pleasant, beautiful weather, I don't know, you might be going out to camp, you might be taking a walk by the river someplace, you might just be in the backyard smiling at the changing of the leaves and as they drop and whatnot, and maybe you're not, maybe you're cussing because you got to rake them up. There's all kind of reactions to autumn. That's certainly true. But in my world, I hope that you're looking to see what is there for the wildlife that are trying to call your yard or your property home, and what's not there, so that you can fill in the gaps. There are, in fact, of course, 4 different components of any habitat. And everybody, they call this the Habitat 4, but it's really for anything that's alive, actually. We have to think about it. We got to recognize that there's got to be food sources. There's got to be a water source. There's also got to be a place just to rest safely, away from prey. It may be, up in a tree, or it may be in a hidden space. And then, of course, a place that's safe to nest. This morning, when you take a look at our frankly fancy, I love it, our fancy SuperTalk.tv photos today, I have put 4 photos in to show you how I interpret those 4 things. One of them is just a saucer of water. You can take a clay saucer, you can take a plastic saucer, you can take something out of your china cabinet, it doesn't matter. But a saucer of water in the yard is always going to be an appropriate source of water for the birds and other critters that come to your garden. Yes, you do have to give them a little bit of a break and clean it up from time to time fairly regularly, but it's a perfect way to provide what they need. Another photo you'll see this morning is one of my very favorites. I used to think I didn't really like chain link fences. I thought that was kind of harsh looking. Well, that was dumb of me. You can grow grapevines on them. They can become protection, or they can become air circulators, because they're built that way. But they've also got sticky things on the top where you can put a half an orange and watch the birds come and enjoy it. I've even seen people put watermelon up on top of their chain link fence, and it is absolutely beautiful. It's a wonderful way to give yourself the chance to see them eating, but at the same time, you're providing both the liquid, the water in this case, but also the food source. So think about doing that. Think about all of those wonderful, I don't know if your kids have ever come home with this, but they may have, or you may want to do it yourself. You take peanut butter, roll it around pasta, dry pasta, and then you put seeds on it and hang it in a tree, and that becomes a bird feeder. And there's so many ways to do this. There's some you can certainly buy them commercially. You'll find them shaped as bells made out of seeds, different things like that. Those are really fun too, because those are food sources that the birds can use, especially in the wintertime. The third, of course, the third component is that whole business about where are we going to rest and nest? And you have to be aware to some extent of what species you are hosting in your yard. In the photos today, you will see the mourning doves. This is one of my very favorite critters because they remind you that you got to go from the ground level to the knee level to the hip level, and then above your head too. You got to make places for the critters to do what they do. And in the case of the mourning doves, of course, they are generally the lower fourth of your garden. They're not eagles. They're mourning doves. So give them a little space and let them have somewhere to rest and to nest. I love a thicket. One of my very favorite plants that will thicket for you even if you don't want it to is possum haw or Ilex decidua. It's a native holly tree, and it will form a thicket if you leave it alone because it makes so many berries they will all just fall on the ground and come up. But the birds will also eat them, and so you're doing two things at once there. You're providing a food source and also giving yourself the opportunity to give them a place to rest. Good morning, Paula from Dentville. How's everything? Let's see. Well, I don't know. Ken's got some good pictures this morning. Beautiful Christmas cactus. Yours are more in bloom than mine are. And I don't see the other, I don't see the Queen of the Night that you're talking about. But I'll look at that again and see what else I can see. Is this a good time for me to remind you that Christmas cactus, although it does not like to be overwatered, certainly is not a plant to leave out to dry. And it's not a plant to leave out when temperatures are below about 45 degrees. They will shrivel up, and sometimes the buds will even fall off if there's a big change. So don't do that. Let's give yourself the opportunity to enjoy the plants that you've grown. This is really pretty, though. You've got some gorgeous ones, big old fat buds, and indeed we've got Thanksgiving cactus, Christmas cactus, Easter cactus. For years ago, I started calling them holiday cactus because they do tend to bloom at holidays, but they each bloom under slightly different conditions. So, and yeah, we understand we've got rounded leaves and pointy leaves. It's two different things, too. The point is that if you're buying a quote-unquote Christmas cactus and it's in bloom on Thanksgiving, don't figure that it may be a Thanksgiving cactus in the classic common name of a plant, but it may just be one that's blooming a little ahead of time. So, yeah, Paula, some people, they say when you find something to do for work that you love, it's not like going to work, and I agree. I love doing radio at least as much as I've ever loved any kind of work that I've ever had, more than most. I do like to write, though, so that's the other one that holds up there at the top for me. But it is, in fact, true that you have to polish those things. You have to be better at them. You have to get going and do better. And I really think that this incarnation of the radio show is the best that we've ever had. Thank you very much, Lance.
Many thanks, Garden Mama. I just love being here. Being a part of this awesome show, honestly. Oh,
you're very sweet to me, and I appreciate it. But here's the thing. This is the best part. This is inside baseball. This is inside radio. The people that say to me, you're the fastest 2 hours in radio, that's the biggest compliment. In other words, I'm supposed to keep you company. I'm not supposed to necessarily drag you down or make you think too hard. That's somebody else's job, and that's a different radio program. This show is intended to make you want to get out there and get growing in your garden. And if I've done that, then I am absolutely doing my job. So I appreciate y'all.
And yes, Paula, you need to come to work with us.
You do, Paula. That's true.
I have a German short-haired pointer here that would love to see you.
He would truly love that, wouldn't he? That's great. He would also
Paula talks dogs. So.
She does. She knows. She
talks all animal, I think.
This is throw out your leftovers day, friends. That means that the neighbors have not showed up soon enough to take everything out of your refrigerator. But to me, that really should be more like Monday. Because to me, today is eat your leftovers and enjoy them. Because you don't have to cook. Now, the best folks are the folks who don't cook at all, who go and visit 3 other family members and bring home a plate from each house. Y'all know these folks. I have no problem with them at all. That's why we cook a little extra anyway. But then they can eat all weekend, and it's all from different people's tables. So I like that. I think that's fun. I don't know why we would have anything on a food weekend like this. Today is National Lemon Cream Pie Day.
Ooh.
What? Sounds great.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm so full. I don't
do
know
I
if
need
can
it?
handle
I don't think I need that today. I think it's another one I need to put over to like Monday or Tuesday.
Like a chocolate pie the other day. No, it must have been yesterday. I think that's what put me down.
That may have taken it. That may have taken it.
Always good, but man,
in my case, it was the double turkey. It was,
I ate plenty of that. The turkeys this year, I don't know if they just, wherever they were bred, it was very humid. But all the turkeys that I've tried were extremely moist.
Yep,
there was not a bad turkey.
It worked.
Yeah,
and there's, sad to say, there is really nothing worse than a dry turkey. Let's face it.
The good old.
Because then you have to eat because you're at the family and you and you don't want to.
Well, when the one of my favorite movies is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and I have caught it. As soon as you get to around Thanksgiving, you got to watch it just to get in the spirit. But when the turkey implodes.
I love
from
that.
overcookedness.
So fun.
Yeah, that's
it's so fun. I trust that we're going to hear Holiday Road at some point today because we usually,
sure. I mean,
kick that one off.
Yeah, we will definitely use that. That's one of my favorites.
One of the funny parts about holiday movies is what you remember from them. Like you remember the turkey. I remember the scenes in the car.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I remember it all. It's just
dictate all of that. But that's that's a familiar and fun one. That's nobody will ever forget the pink bunny suit in Christmas Story. Once you've seen that, it's embroidered in your head.
I love it when they get out in National Lampoon's.
Hold on to that.
They're going tree hunting, and they get out there and finally, get to the one that's the tree, and they go, "Who brought the axe?"
Oh dear.
I don't know how they shook it out and got it back to the car, but it had the whole root system was with it. They could have planted it in the front yard.
This morning we've got pictures of Paula's pets who are both enjoying and recovering from Thanksgiving food. Oh no, we never feed any of our pets human food. We know we're not supposed to do that. No, we don't. We don't ever do that.
No, mine get biscuits and sausage on Sundays. So yeah, they get dog breakfast.
Dog breakfast. That's the one we all want to join them for. That's for sure. Going to talk today about wildlife habitat. Going to take your texts and take your phone calls. Catch up with everybody as we go along this morning. Tomorrow's Mississippi Day. How you going to celebrate, y'all? Something to consider. Oh, my goodness. We got to step out, but we'll be back. This is the Garden Mama Show. Y'all may remember that a few weeks ago I was telling you about a study that says, those of us who have good memories or memories of a time and a place, and we tend to maybe tell that story a few times, too many times, about when the so-and-so happened to the such and such. You are encouraged to do that, but you're also encouraged to make sure that you have memories, that you're making memories today for tomorrow, that you're paying attention to what's going on in the world today, and also talking about that, telling those stories. So my story today is to tell you that if you haven't listened to the Tedeschi Trucks Band and you like Allman Brothers, Dickie Betts, any of that stuff, I'm giving you a gift, and that is Tedeschi Trucks. Susan Tedeschi and Butch Trucks are the future of that. I don't know, is it Southern Rock? What is it even called, Lance? I don't even know.
Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi are amazing. I've seen them several times.
I mean, I have too, but they're finally coming to prominence. They're finally getting
they're getting
invited to everything else.
They probably deserve.
They really do.
Have deserved it.
And they are, in fact, I mean, they're a band that's young, growing, and both embracing.
And both have been around. They're not
these are not
spring
babies.
chickens.
No.
I've listened to both of them.
But in terms of the rock world, we're looking at Keith Richards, putting out a new album at 85 or whatever it is. So we have to look at people that are in the 50s as being young in rock and roll. They are.
I would say both had very good careers in the music industry before they hooked up together for the duo. And boy, Heidi, are they something together. I think they're better together, but if you really get into their music, just go back and listen to things that they did before they joined up, and then how great it is when you see that kind of partnership.
The first time I ever heard Susan Tedeschi sing, I read a review that I agreed with, which is rare, but it said that her voice grabbed Bonnie Raitt and Janis Joplin by the shoulders and went forward. And I do believe that's true because she can scream, but she can also just break your heart. It's the best. It's a wonderful thing. So I'm giving that to y'all today. You'll have more. Go ahead, put the oldies on. I'm not going to say I don't have an oldies channel on my my algorithm, but toss in some of the new stuff too. It gives us.
Yeah,
both.
you won't be disappointed.
You will not be disappointed. Oh, I can see it now. Okay, Ken had his other plant hidden. Yes, that will be rooting, and it looks like you got it just about right. It doesn't look too dry and it doesn't look too wet. But yes, you can root it from that one leaf as long as you don't overwater it. You'll get that not queen of the night. This one is the lady of the night, the Sirius. We've been admiring today the whole Queen of Tears thing, Queen's Tears plant, the reblooming bromeliad. Oh my goodness. She's as pretty as any Christmas plant you'll ever run into. So I encourage you to have some of those too. Absolutely. So talking about the wildlife habitat, this can be everybody from the pollinators, to the squirrels, the possums, the raccoons. We've all got raccoons nowadays, right? And then we've also got some really beautiful opportunities to encourage the ones in between, the birds and the herps and the turtles and all of the babies that we want to encourage to be in our gardens, because it encourages, it makes us understand the health of the garden, for one thing. The other piece of it is, of course, the diversity, that if we've got plants that the wildlife depend on, then the wildlife will come to visit with us and stay with us. But if we can also provide the elements of rest and nest and food and water, they will stay longer, and that in turn provides better insect control for the plants that we're trying to grow that we like. So there's a whole lot of pieces of this puzzle. I'm going to apologize for one of the photos I sent. I didn't realize it was going to come out so blurry, but it is in fact an Ilex decidua thicket. So, oh, this is great. Our Madison gardener has got flowering maple cuttings. They've rooted. They're putting out new leaves. Alternating the heating pad at night and grow light during the day, so there's a lot of condensation. Yeah, there will be. Should I vent the close to release some? Yes. And then as soon as you feel like you've got some roots, in other words, generally speaking, of something like a flowering maple and a butylon, many perennials, in fact, will put out 3 or 4 leaves, and then the way you know that it's rooted is you hold on to the stem, and it's really very stable. It doesn't just want to move around when you touch it, and it also will oftentimes begin to put out a new leaf, and those are the signs that you're ready to pot up. So give yourself the chance to do that. It's just wonderful. Make sure your soil is well drained, and I would keep that little, when you move them into a little container that's larger than where they've been, I would continue to keep them on the heat mat with a little extra light just for a couple of weeks. Help them get started. Okay, that's great. That's great. Warren Haynes, yes. Thank you, Bubba. There is a family tree of all of that, Who's in what band? There's some that go, I think Tom Petty is the connector to a whole bunch of people in his generation, but I think Warren Haynes may be the next one. I really do. It's great music, wonderful music. Our wildlife folks are really having, how do I even say this? There must be 4 different ways to get your habitat certified by somebody. Nature Conservancy, Wildlife of America, there's a bunch of them. But they all come down to the same points of view, and the way you do it is entirely dependent on you and how you maintain your property. But I gotta say that thicket can be just as simple as not mowing a patch behind the flower bed, okay? Because that gives them a place to hide that they wouldn't be in otherwise. There's all kind of ways to manipulate this wildlife situation. So I hope that's really going great. Oh, this is fun. Yes, we did have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you. I hope you did too. And it's a little sad the Mediterranean geckos don't show up in the carport. Oh, my goodness. Well, when it gets cold, they have good sense. They're all underneath something. And trust me, it's a good idea for them to be underneath something. Temperatures really depends on your particular population. But the populations of the geckos do tend to have a very specific temperature, happy range, and then beyond that they just go to sleep. They get themselves. And he's right, or she's right. They do a great job of getting rid of the huntsman spiders. They do a real good job of a lot of things. They keep the leaves of my night blooming cereus very, very clean. They take off aphids and anything else that might be on there. They do live in some of the hanging baskets, and frankly, they get things that I don't ever even see up in there because the hanging baskets are so thick in some cases. So I think that's great. That's Rhett. Hey, Rhett. I had to roll up to see who that was. Yeah, we do all like our geckos, though, because they do such a good job. And sometimes the spiders can get ahead. We're looking at photos at SuperTalk.tv, beautiful lemon blossoms. And I just can't tell you how sweet that is. When they bloom in the wintertime, you have literally you understand at that moment why people went to so much trouble to bring orange trees back from below the equator to England and built houses. It's called an orangerie. You understand the first glass house was built for oranges, and there's a good reason for that. There certainly is. I think that's my grandmother's deviled egg plate he's got there. That was a nice one. Christmas trees everywhere, y'all. We're looking at some photos of them today, too. It's one of those things, when we talk about what to do with the live Christmas tree, there are folks who feel like there is an argument, all right? It's like so many things in gardening and horticulture and popular culture anyway. There's an argument. If I get one not real tree, I can keep it for years. That's true. It does take a whole lot to make that because it's a petrochemical product. It's made out of oil. Okay, so I get both of the arguments on that side. On the other hand, you have to do a whole lot. It takes years to grow a Christmas tree out in the Christmas tree farm. So that's also a big investment and a lot of time. It's also true, though, that when you cut it, it's cut. So you're not going to be able to replant that tree. That's why some people prefer to keep one in a container and use that each year because they've got, somebody's got a living Christmas tree. Well, if you want to do the cut tree, and I'm a big fan of, I come from that world. I come from the world where, you get up from Thanksgiving dinner and go sell Christmas trees at the tree lot. That's where I come from. It's important to understand how to take care of them so you get the most out of them. And the first thing, of course, is that fresh cut across the bottom. Take that tree, put it into a bucket of water, warm water at least. If you have some preservative, you put that in there too. Yes, I know. Somebody else besides me had family and that put in 2 aspirins and a cup of Sprite or 7-Up or something. I mean, there's all kind of things and rationales for all of that. But the point is that you need it to be as hydrated as it can be before you bring it in your house, where it's obviously going to be dry. So keep water in the tree stand when you get it in the house. That's also something that people will forget. Okay, so do make sure that you do that. And there are a couple of other things where you locate the tree can make a difference. You don't. It's not quite as sensitive as a poinsettia. They always tell you don't put the poinsettia next to a door that opens and closes frequently during the day. And also they'll tell you that about Christmas trees too. But we usually only have 1 or 2 places that are big enough in the house to put the Christmas tree. So that's a little bit less of a thing. It's mostly just making sure that you keep the water in it and that you also turn the lights off. I know we've got LED lights. They don't heat up, but you're going to save a little power anyway when you're not actually using the tree. And if you have old-fashioned lights, you absolutely need to, because they're going to heat up that branch and that further dries it out. Okay, so just a couple of ideas for you. Yes, my many chilly winters in the Christmas tree lot tell me a thing or two about that, but I'm also a big fan of the trees. So I hope that if you have the real ones, you treat them right and enjoy them. And then at the end of the season, of course, we go back to wildlife habitat. That can be part of your thicket. It can be taken apart to create a nesting area. There's all sorts of things you can do with all that material. The photo of Queen's Tears is now up at supertalk.tv, as well as one of my favorite things, which is the tree that is for the birds. It's popcorn and cranberries strung together and some ornaments made of seeds, little sliced lemons here and there. Just some of the fun things that you can do to encourage wildlife in your garden, or even, frankly, one of the prettiest things I've ever seen was the holiday decorations at a business where they were into it every year, and they really got into it. And one year they decided they were also going to take care of the wildlife. So they're all the plants, not just the Christmas trees, but the plants in the landscape were all decked out with popcorn chains and bird seed bells and that kind of stuff. And it was really fun. It was really lovely to have a chance to see them put that into the next step, actually celebrate the birds for the holiday. Today is Electronic Greetings Day. You know what that is? Well, if you've never gotten an electronic greeting, I'm going to give you one right now. Hello!
There you go. Right.
We are an electronic greeting here. So, but if you have a friend who sends you animated cards in your email, which I just think is so cool. I love getting mail in the mailbox, but I like getting mail in the email box too. Interestingly enough, these are, they're the ones that'll be animated and they'll be for the holiday or your birthday or something like that. These things are growing at a 9% annual rate. I'm not going to tell you what to invest in, but anything that's growing at 9% is a pretty good deal. It is continued through 2033 to be projected to continue to grow at almost 6% through that whole time. That's amazing. You know why? Because paper's expensive. Many people do not necessarily have a place to receive mail on a regular basis, or they have the opportunity. Let's just talk about this. It's not as easy to buy stamps as it once was. It's not as easy to get to the post office. I'm still going to mail all those Christmas cards. I'm still going to do all of those things that I have always done because I love doing that. But I recognize that that's not necessarily the latest approach to these things. So electronic greetings are a big thing of it. Just in the U.S. now, and they're very popular in Europe, but just in the U.S., the online greeting card sales market is up to more than $2.5 billion. B with $1 billion in 2025. I love this. They really took over during the pandemic because people were taking, the opportunity to spending a lot of time at home, spending a lot of time in their computers, and still wanting to be in touch with people. So that's really where the popularity surged. They've been around for a very long time. But their growth rate and the whole move, not only to a digital shift anyway, but also to the younger generations being more likely, there's a question out there, do we even teach cursive writing anymore? Okay, there's all of these questions. Things change. And the more they change, the more we keep some of the elements that we liked, which was the greeting part of it. And that gives us a chance to say hello to folks. So get yourself together, send an electronic greeting card. But don't go too far, because we got a long way to go this morning. This is the Garden Mama Show. Isn't it funny how the movie plays in your head when you hear the music?
I love the video of Lindsey Buckingham.
Yeah.
It's so
That's
80s.
fun.
It's great.
It's extremely 80s. Yeah. All the hair, the whole thing.
Yeah, the suit and everything.
Oh, God, that
just
suit.
got out of a business
right.
meeting.
I forgot about that.
He
looks like he
Paul
literally
Mitchell.
parked his car in the high-rise and then went over to play guitar.
Yeah, and then just leaves there, goes to see the Paul Mitchell or Vidal Sassoon salon. Good to go.
Well, and
are those Bugle Boy jeans you're wearing?
Yeah, whatever that took. Yeah, whatever you were doing. It certainly was working for him, that's for sure. That reminds us it's also Small Business Saturday, so get out and buy something, y'all. Go local. We're all about that. We are all about that. There's coffee roasting going on here and all kind of other stuff. So y'all get yourselves some good ideas, some good holiday going, and make it happen locally. I think that's a big help for everybody, not just me. Not just me. I have been intrigued. This is a wonderful, wonderful question. Is it common for lemon trees to bloom this time of year? They're beautiful, Bobby from Monticello. The flowers, I swear to you, I can smell them from here. They're just gorgeous. And yes, it's fine. Many times our containerized citrus, but especially the lemons, will bloom in the strangest points of the year. It takes about 6 months for that to turn into, once it gets pollinated, for it to turn into a lemon. So you may or may not get pollination, you may or may not get lemons, but the flowers, when they bloom in the wintertime, just brighten up everything. There's no question about that. It's lovely, lovely, lovely. And of course, if you want to, you can't really help them pollinate from in your living room too much, but it certainly doesn't hurt to keep the tree good and healthy, and maybe open a window or put it outside if the weather's good for a couple of days. Help that all happen. Mike's in Brookhaven. He wants to know if it's a good time to transplant plum tree sprouts. I said, actually, my thought, this is what I just wrote to him during the break, because it's a two-parter. If you're taking those sprouts and you want to pot them up to grow them on and then plant them at some point in the future, yes, this is a fine time to do that. And in fact, if you have any tree or shrub that you want to dig up a part of, dig up the sprouts from, the seedlings around the base of, or any of that, this is a great time to dig those up and pot them. I would wait until after it rains, but that's coming in a minute. So it's a good time to do that. But if you want to actually plant them in the ground, January is a better time to do that. So, and it does take, I think of plum sprouts the way I think of fig trimmings. When you prune figs in the wintertime, sometimes you just stick that in the ground and it will root right there next to the tree. Sometimes the plums will do that, but they won't always. So you're always in good shape to pot them up, grow them on for a few months, and then plant them out when you decide to do that. You're more than welcome. Thank you. Appreciate you, Mike. So glad. Brookhaven's so cool. There's so many spiffy things. We haven't taken the fried chicken tour yet, but we are thinking about it.
I'm in, yes.
We're working on that fried chicken tour. But there's a lot of reasons to go to every town, and there's something in every town that's going to get your attention. I think seeing the lemons bloom has literally jumped into the lemon cream pie thing. It is a discussion. Do you like lemon cream pie? Do you like lemon icebox pie? Do you like lemon meringue pie? They are three different things. I don't care. I like all of them. So, y'all tell me which is the best. Somebody else will have to decide about that for me. There are some beautiful lettuce plants I've been growing. I did that thing, have some that have come up from seedlings, but the ones that are really in big happy shape today came as an overcrowded container. And I want to tell you, when you go to the garden center, when you go to the big box store, and you look over there at that rack, and you think, man, those plants are awfully big and awfully full grown, go ahead. You can take them apart. It'll be okay. Who's our caller today?
We have Greg in Northeast Mississippi that had a question about crepe myrtles for you. You're on, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Hey guys, appreciate you taking my call, Garden Mom.
Always.
Thank you, Lance. I was just wondering, yes, ma'am, I have about a dozen of these elephant crepe myrtles, and I was wondering, can I start cutting them back, or do I need to wait till the first of the year?
Wait till January. What we always hear in Mississippi is that we're going to have a cold snap, and then by that time we put on flip-flops for New Year's. That's why we wait to prune crepe myrtles till January, so we can get past this last little up and down business, and go ahead and prune them when they've lost all their leaves and they're very dormant. And that's January. Okay. Paula agrees with me. Any lemon pie is good.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I like the lemon-filled donut as well.
Oh, another good choice. Let's see. Oh, thank you. Corinne just had a cup of my wonderful coffee. Thank you very much.
That is not necessarily accurate. It's way more than wonderful, but it's hard to put words onto things like that sometimes.
Well, you use the word wonderful to describe anything around me, it's going to be fine.
Yes,
that's about as nice as
it's going
to be. Yeah, that's going to be great. Anyway, she's celebrating Small Business Saturday with the coffee, and she suggests that everybody should do this. I hope that you will. mamaonair@yahoo.com. Is it too late to divide daylilies? Well, it's a little bit odd to do it right this minute, and the reason I say that is because it's about to be pouring down rain for 2 days. So if you get out there and the soil is workable right now, yeah, you can certainly dig them up and divide them, but I wouldn't necessarily replant them until after the next showers, the next storm. I don't want them to get beaten down too badly, but you can certainly go ahead and do the dividing, put them into a box, keep them in a big container or something, just not planted, just keep them in your garage or something, and then plant them when the next nice patch of water gets through here and gets to us some sunshine. I think that would be a better idea. I will say though that I've got some amaryllis bulbs right now that would like to be planted, and I'm probably going to go ahead and do that. I also suggest, if you still have tulips in your refrigerator, as I do, that you think about getting them into the ground. It's getting cold enough for them to be able to do that. We still have that problem where it warms up again and they may try to sprout, but we would rather they had the opportunity to be in the ground most of the month of December, provided you've had the 8 or 10 weeks to have them chill up for you. And it's about that time. We're going to be busy. I'm sure you will be too. There's we're talking about hazards to our gardens the other day with some friends. And she said that her mother was most distressed about the squirrels, but she realized pretty soon that the guy next door had started feeding the squirrels, and so they were having a party. They were bringing all the squirrels from the entire neighborhood into her backyard. It's hard to get people not to do that if they're going to, but you can hope that the squirrels will stay over where they're being fed. Doesn't always work, though, and I'm not really sure why people feel a need to feed squirrels. There's plenty for them to eat, and they certainly seem to find plenty. The nests that you see are very large. They have plenty of places to live. So I'm not sure why we would need to feed the squirrels, but I know people do. They feed the chipmunks in Colorado, and then the chipmunks will come right back and take your granola bar out of your hand. I mean, that's just the way that goes. So we don't necessarily always do that. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Paula has just thrown me right off the ledge here. She cooked a 19-pound turkey. Y'all, that's a lot of turkey.
Yes.
That's a lot of oven.
That's from Turkey, you know.
Now, you do have to have a meat thermometer to do that, in my opinion. But it turned out great, and today it's turning into turkey and dumplings. Not a bad choice,
No,
I'm telling you.
I love dumplings.
I'm telling you, not a bad choice. Well, between dumplings and lemon pie, I think we're ready for lunch, y'all. Stick around. Come back for an hour of the Garden Mama Show. We got a lot to talk about. I got some more things to tell you and some advice you're probably going to want to take. Thanks for being here. Because we're trying to produce a product that we can in turn use in the garden all across the property, and that will give us the nutrients and minerals that are held up in that organic matter, but also, frankly, the texture. A lot of times our soils in the Deep South are smack shut. They might be clay, they might be what's called gumbo, which grows things but is pretty heavy when it gets wet, and it might even be Delta red soil. You know, we got a lot of different things around the Deep South that make it difficult. They're full of minerals, they're full of organic matter, but you got to tap into it. And a lot of times you can do that with compost. You can do that with making your own compost and adding it into what you've already got. Or maybe you've brought in some things. For example, I really like to bring in some ground barks and the soil conditioning products. Those are, to me, are very powerful and very useful. But they also still need native soil if you're going to be growing outdoors, and they also still need things that are going to help them to drain better, which organic matter can do. So I encourage you to make the most of your organic matter. Rake up all those leaves. Go ahead and even, if you've got little branches and things maybe that are smaller than your little finger, chop those up too, because they will break down pretty quickly in most cases. You add that into the compost. If you've got, I don't know, maybe you left an elephant ear out there and it's now kind of oozy and falling down around on the ground. Compost all that. If you took down your banana trees, or if you didn't, you got some nice green material from that. You got that ryegrass lawn, you mow it, you need a little green, put that in the compost too. So give yourself the opportunity to make something that's going to make your garden better for a very long time just by doing a little bit of work now. Okay. I really love Ron sent a good giggle. I'm sure that y'all will see this a little bit later. It's about the wishbone. It's a delightful, funny turkey joke. So thank you for that. There's Ken's wanting to know about his nerve plant, Fittonia. If y'all have not grown that one, it's a wonderful house plant. But it is a plant that does not like to be too wet or too dry. And this one does look a little bit too dry, but he's having an issue with it, so I suggest watering from the bottom as an alternative. It's not that I don't want you to water plants from the top, but I think one of the best things that we can do for house plants is to water them in their saucer underneath the plant, at least occasionally, so that the plant, all of the soil in the pot then can draw up water. If it doesn't draw it up after about an hour, you need to empty the saucer, and then you may or may not have to go back and pour it in and do some watering from the top if the roots were just not able to take up any water at all. But usually they will be able to. Usually there's a certain amount of osmosis going on between the soil and the water anyway, and you're able to feed those lower roots a little more happily, and sometimes that will make a plant like the nerve plant be a little bit happier for you. Be a little bit less likely to wilt in between waterings. Tommy's in Tomb Suba. The ladybugs have arrived. Yeah, there's two kinds. There's the ones that bite and there's the ones that don't. And then, unfortunately, the ones that tend to want to get into the house tend to be the ones that bite. Not always, but they tend to be a little bit meaner. So brooms and sweeping them up and getting them out of the house is the first step. If there's too many for that, take out the vacuum cleaner. And I'm telling you, the worst thing you can do is vacuum them up and then not empty the vacuum cleaner. I remember that letter. Whew. I used to get a lot of letters from people when I wrote a newspaper column. People would write to me and ask me about their problems. And there was one that was so just, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Tommy says there's bite. And they will do that. So that's the main reason why we want to get them contained. Sometimes I have seen people put like an old tablecloth or an old piece of plastic that's 4 feet or so, put it on the if they're on the walls, and just sweep them off the walls into that, either that piece of sheeting or that piece of paper or something that you got, and then you can just roll them up and get rid of them that way. But there's not a pesticide that is as effective as you are. Now, obviously, this tells you that there's some kind of cracks and whatnot somewhere that they're getting in, unless they came in on your plants, and you have to be careful of that too. But if you have any windows that leak, if you have any doors that are not quite closing all the way to the outside, they can get in under anything. So give yourself the chance to fix those things. But right now, in terms of the cleanup, it really is just physical removal, and it works very effectively. I have said many times that the sugar ants are the things that I also think you can just get rid of by physically taking wet rags and getting rid of them. They do come back occasionally, but most of the time you get rid of most of them, they'll just be gone. I think the ladybugs are even more likely to be gone because they all come at once. They jump in all together. Oh, I love this photo I'm seeing in SuperTalk.tv. This is the beginning of hellebores. That's the Lenten roses. That's really the plant that we have not celebrated enough as a perennial in the Deep South. That one for the winter, and spigula for the other end, well, not the other end of the year, but for the spring and fall. We don't grow them enough. They're not that easy to propagate, and that's probably why. But I wish that we would, because they're so beautiful. Yeah, get your vacuum out, and be sure you clean the vacuum cleaner after you get rid of the ladybugs. I know that sounds funny, but we have to do that. We absolutely have to be sure we do that part. There's a couple of other things going on today in the so much to do, and how do you find the time? I don't know how to tell you this, but I am not a good square dancer. I don't even know if they still do this, but they used to make us learn square dancing and Virginia reel and minuet and all these things in school. They called it physical education, but I think it was just because it was too cold to let us go outside. Anybody else think that? Probably. But the whole business of square dancing, of course, is one of those American forms that has literally taken from every piece of our culture and put into that one thing. It's not all any one. It's not all any one dance, but there were people don't realize this. I like to dance as much as I like to do anything, but I also do about 72 other things in a given day. I have to say that there was a time in this world when by the time you got to Saturday night, you probably had worked 15 hours a day on some kind of hard physical labor thing. You didn't have as many choices for what you're going to do in the daytime or even at night. And when it came time to go down to the barn and go square dancing, everybody was just so happy to be there doing something and enjoying it. And that's been the case across time. So the square dancing actually comes from European folk dances, but it also comes from African American dances. It comes from everything from the French quadrille, there's just a boatload of different dances that have turned around and been incorporated. I don't know if you have ever been to a square dance where there's actually a caller, but it's as fun as being at somewhere where they're auctioning something off. These people speak an entirely different language, and they tell you what to do, and hopefully the person you're dancing with knows, because I don't. But at any rate, The Scottish reel is another piece of that particular puzzle. Over time, the whole business of dancing for four couples in a square formation developed itself into such a classic, wonderful thing. And then we had to get the dresses, and then we had to get the fancy pants. So we had to go a little bit farther along. But the calling of the steps and the dance and the next moves and whatnot is the part of this tradition that comes in from the African American side, in particularly. But there's a lot to be said for getting together and dancing with a bunch of people. If you are old enough to if you're old enough to remember that people used to always dance in hold, and then suddenly they didn't. And I credit Chubby Checker for teaching us all how to dance by ourselves with the twist, but maybe it was something else. I don't know. I think we understand that dancing in form, like square dancing, is very, very specific, and that's a lot of fun to learn, rather. Oh, that's great. Ken loved it. So Ken took the Fittonia, the nerve plant, that I said looked a little bit like it needed a little attention, put it in a saucer of water, and just like that, it sucked it all up. Now, I don't want you to continue to overwater it, but in 15 or 20 minutes, if the top of the soil still looks dry, remember that you want to water it again tomorrow, because it will pick its leaves up with just any amount of water, and you don't want to go into an overwatering situation. So go ahead and let it lift its leaves up over the next few hours, and then if you need to give it more water, do that tomorrow. But I appreciate when things like that work. They can be so dramatic that they really do, as Ken says, holy cow, Batman. That's wonderful. Oh my goodness. How sweet is this, Lance? We're on the sound system as they're getting ready for tomorrow's Sunday morning services.
Yay.
Hello, y'all. What a beautiful setup. Love that. Lovely sanctuary and a very cool sound system going. Thank you. That's wonderful. We don't curse here, so I think we'll be all right. I think we will be all right. So, you may not go square dancing, but you might go out and do a little local shopping today. That's another piece of this. You in fact saw people dancing on four sides, so you know why it's called that. But there are other things that we think about. This time of year, we're always looking for a way to make a party more interesting. I have a friend who makes mulled wine, and the whole process of making it, and then you come back a couple of weeks later and enjoy the wine and whatnot. That can be a party. You'll find families that get together and make latkes for Hanukkah because it's fun to cook together and fun to do that. But I got to say, we have to realize that this is our time of year when we don't eat all those leftovers, my friends. And today is Get Rid of Your Waste Day. Get rid of your food waste day. Makes me sad because I would like to think that we're going to use up every bite. That they talk about farm to table in terms of food. They talk about hoof to tail in terms of using all of the animal. And we still, there's going to be some waste, but surely we can reduce this. In the United States, we throw away a third of the food that we prepare. Okay, that's terrible, and I know there's not anything I personally can do about it except what I do for myself and my family. I'm happy to tell you that you can do the same thing. You can learn how to cultivate the leftovers for yourself. You can also learn how to use your freezer. There's all kind of things you can do with that food before you let it go. But we have always worried about this. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Irma Bombeck, but she was the first humorist in the United States to really jump on this food waste bandwagon, and tell us what was going on. What I remember, we used to see her columns, I think it was in Reader's Digest, but I may be wrong about that. Makes me laugh to think about her. She was the first person that I ever heard say that when you put leftovers in the refrigerator, the point of pushing them back to the back of the refrigerator is so that they can stay in there longer and actually become garbage. Now, everybody's done this. You have that last half of a sandwich or that part of a soup bowl or something, and it just gets pushed further and further back into the refrigerator. She said, if it's made right, this garbage can only take a week. So you waste your refrigerator time but you didn't want to throw it away right away. And I get that. I feel that same way about it myself. She says that there's a whole different thing. She describes the life cycle of those leftovers. They go from just sitting there, and eventually they smell, and then eventually you call them dead, and then eventually you bury them. Don't compost them. This is not for the compost heap. But she says that in some ways, there's a whole business of the other end of this. Okay, so if you've got a leftover and you really want it, that last piece of ham maybe, or those last dumplings for you, Lance, there's something you really want and you don't want anybody else to get. She says the thing to do is to wrap it in aluminum foil and write on it very clearly chicken fat and put it in the refrigerator, whatever it is. Nobody will take it and use it because it's chicken fat. It would imply that they have to cook something. So that's how you hide your leftovers. I really do. She was also the first person that I ever knew who agreed with me that the separate container tops needed to actually have a hinge on them so you could keep them together and not lose them. So there's just so many things. So many wonderful things about leftovers. What's your favorite leftover? Think about it. What is the thing?
Dressing, like nuked until it's bubbling and boiling, and that's
now,
the best.
Do you put sweet potatoes on top of it, or do you put cranberry sauce on top of it?
Once it's in the recycled mode, I'm just eating it straight out. Nothing needed other than a little pepper, right? little pepper.
Well, there is a discussion. I'm one who likes to put the sweet potatoes on the bottom of the pan and put the dressing on top of it, and then it's like eating dinner and then dessert.
Wow!
In one
it's
little
like
leftover.
A peanut butter parfait, but
kind of like that.
The layered
gives you the thing. But a lot of people say that the only way to eat dressing is with cranberry sauce on the side. And so the leftover way.
Well, as long as it came out of the can and still has the indentions in it. We had that. I mean, that's like a favorite. You just plop it out of the can like dog food and slice it. Oh, man.
I have to say, we have both here. We have berried sauce, and we also have the jellied one. I'm happy for the folks at Cranberry World. We looked at the pictures of the bog the other day. Obviously, the harvest was good because it's not terribly expensive to get some cranberries, but I don't want to cook them. I want somebody else to cook them. I have a brother-in-law who's really good at making a sauce from the cranberries themselves.
See, Paula's, we're kindred spirits here.
See,
dressing with black pepper and gravy. That's the combo right there. Yeah.
Yep.
I could eat my weight in that stuff as long as it's within the week. After you get outside of about 5 or 6 days, I'm like, nah, I'm not touching. I'm not.
Do you put sage in your dressing?
I don't make dressing. I don't. I'm the one. I just show up and eat. I'm fortunate in that regard. I get some. Hey, would you do this or would you pick up that stuff? But generally, they let me cut the turkey. I have a great. I'm very good at that. And I'm also the test eater. So.
Well, he didn't fall over.
Yeah,
I guess we can eat it.
Oh, and I fry okra. I'm the okra fryer. I get it good and crunchy and crispy like mamaw, So.
I like that. Paula says if you poke a hole at the opposite end of the can of cranberries, it will come out easily. You know what else works? Take a knife and just run it around the edge inside after you've opened the top. It'll slide right out. It is definitely an art form. She's right about that. I don't think you're going to be able to get away without frying okra now that I know you can do that.
Ooh, yeah.
I like that. We're having fun this morning, y'all. Thank you so much for being here with us. There's so many choices. There's so many things to do. The fact that you consistently stick with us and tell other folks about the Garden Mama Show just makes us so happy and gives us an opportunity to be here. Stick around. We'll be right back. Now that's some traveling music there.
Hadn't heard that one in a while, so I had to play it.
Love it. There's something about doing radio shows on a weekend of a holiday weekend, let's face it, a lot of people, team one, everybody's on vacation, this and that, and that's as it should be. But those of us who only get to be here on Saturday really, really, really love it, because it means that there's inevitably people who are driving up and down, going from hither to thither and going, what is that I'm listening to? Well, you're listening to the Garden Mama Show on SuperTalk, and we appreciate it very, very much. I've been here for a long time. Luckily for me, I still get the phone calls and the texts, and y'all are good to me, and everything that I want to do seems to be things that y'all want to do, so we get a chance to talk about it. My background is in English and horticulture, and if you think that's funny, you should have seen the look on my father's face since he was paying for college at that time. I want to talk a little bit about the photos that are popping up right now on supertalk.tv have just led me into this beautiful group of ideas for decorating your home from your own garden or from maybe the neighbor's yard, somewhere close by. The reason I say this is because we have a strong sense of place in the South anyway, and we have the opportunity many times to, we love to import things. We love to have something nobody else has, something that we haven't seen before. But in many cases, we have the opportunity to just harvest what we've got. And when you're taking a look at things like that Leland cypress that I talked about, or the pine boughs that you look around and you think, I've got all of this, I can trim some and bring it inside, or the neighbor's cypress tree is leaning over into my yard, I think I'll clip a few. All of those things do need to be conditioned, and it's basically the same thing as cut flowers or cut stems or anything else that you would do. If you will get yourself a bucket, get some warm water and some flower preservative or floral preservative, or even sometimes you'll see tree green preservative products, put that in there, let them stay overnight, then you can decorate with them and know that you will get as much out of them as you possibly can. Garlands especially benefit from being sprayed with a mister regularly, maybe every day, maybe twice a day. Because you've got the heat on in the house, a lot of times people will put them over the fireplace and then turn on the fireplace. Well, it's hot. So let those plants have a little bit of attention from you. It's the same thing as making sure that you don't have the poinsettia in front of your oven, so when it opens up, you're not making things too hot. You really do want to give yourself the chance to take care of these and have them last for several weeks, if not more than that. I'm really very fond of pineapples as a holiday decoration. And I have two tips for you. One, don't cut them. Use them for the top of a tree like decoration. You might do this with apples. You might do it with cooking pears. You might do it with, styrofoam balls that are made up to look like apples or something. There's all kind of ways to do this. But when you put that pineapple in the very top of an arrangement, you've given it a hat. You've also given it a structure and a texture that is different from everything around it. And you do that a couple of places, maybe on the sideboard, maybe on the table where you're serving your food if you have a buffet. All of these kinds of things have a perfect location for that pineapple. And when you buy it and it's green, then it also means that by the time we get to New Year's, you'll be able to have a nice ripe pineapple, if not sooner. You'll have a nice ripe pineapple that you can enjoy to eat. But use it as a decoration. Those things are so, that used to be such a prize. We used to not be able to get those kinds of things because pineapples were considered so exotic. Now, fortunately, thanks to the 50th state, that's Hawaii, thanks to the folks that grow pineapples, we have a lot more of them. Have you ever seen the pink ones? Well, the pink ones are kind of nifty, too. The pink ones are missing an enzyme that causes them to be pink. I mean, it's the same thing as a regular yellow pineapple, but it has a different flavor to it. It's sweeter, and it has been selected for that to be a different quality. But they're both beautiful. You can put ribbons on them. You can put them literally in the center of the fruit bowl or on the top of a fruit tower, and you'll have a decoration that you can share with everybody and at the same time enjoy yourself. So I have no problems doing that. I still don't know what the tree is. I keep looking at it, and I keep thinking I know what it is, but then I look at the leaf again. It's one of those, if you're looking at supertalk.tv with me today, help us out and tell me what you're hearing, what you're seeing, I should say. Didn't mean to play that. Somebody asked me this week about Harry Lauder's walking stick, which is a contorted filbert, essentially It's a tree, but they found this one form of it in a hedgerow of the trees in England, I think in the 19th century. And this one, literally every branch of it was just twisted more crazily than the one next to it. So, gardeners and plantsmen being what we are, take that out, start trying to multiply it, start trying to propagate it, and sure enough, we were able to establish this plant. It's not natural. It doesn't occur naturally anywhere except in where it's sported in that hedge, and the rest of them have been propagated intentionally. It is literally, when the name contorta is in a plant, you know what it's going to look like. It is contorted, and it is beautiful. They do get leaf spot in the same way that hydrangeas get leaf spot, or maple trees get leaf spot. The problem starts in the springtime. So if you have had a problem on Harry Lauder or on some other plant where the leaves got holes in them, got shot holes, and then got just dropped off and all that, get those leaves out of your yard. Don't compost those. This is what I'm telling you, that we don't want to compost anything that has been seriously attacked by fungus or by any other kind of pest, really, particularly chewing insects. You don't want to compost that, simply because you could be taking that into your garden and then making more of it than you need to. So give yourself the chance to get rid of that. But when we talk about taking care of those trees, we're rolling right now into the perfect season for oil sprays. These are not dormant oil sprays. These are not fancy oil sprays. These are good old-fashioned, what is misnomered and called all-season oil sprays. We don't spray oil in the summer in the Deep South. But when the temperatures are below 80 degrees and then again below 70 degrees, it's even better. We have the opportunity to do some winter spraying. That suppresses the pest problems that are there. It helps to clean up the bark and whatnot that we're using it on from the bugs that might bother it, and it also just really is a great way to end the year, because you get a good chance to look closely at your plants while you're doing this. The other thing to understand about spraying with oil, of course, is that you will be better served by having a little sprayer for that process. Just get a small, maybe a 1 gallon, unless you got a gigantic property. Get a 1 gallon, get a small bottle of ultrafine horticultural oil or all seasons oil from Bonite or one of those, and keep that, because it will last a long time, and it'll give you the opportunity to clean up your woody plants, particularly in the winter. Now, you hear me talking about spraying the branches and spraying the trunks. Yes, if you have camellias and sasanquas and other evergreens, you can also use the oil spray on them. Do not spray your flowers or your flower buds, because they will be discolored and you will not be happy about it. But you can spray the plant itself. You can spray, and that will help a lot in the case of camellias and sasanquas, to suppress the scale. You understand how scale insects work, of course. Scale insects are one of those things that can be there for years before they present a big problem. So part of the joy of using an oil spray is that you are preventing the development of a problem that's probably there but wouldn't get big if you suppress it. And we can do that. We can suppress that with the oil sprays. But what we're looking at, of course, are plants that are going to be assaulted by scale insects, mostly on the leaves. If you don't do an oil spray regime in the wintertime, don't give yourself a chance to take care of that problem, then what will happen, of course, the back of the leaves may turn yellow. That may be the first thing that you see, but the back of the leaf will have white webbing on it. And unless you are able to basically stay up and wait, you will not know when those things hatch. The crawlers that hatch are teeny tiny little green critters. They run around, and as quick as they can, maybe a day or two after they hatch, they poke their beaks into those leaves, and that becomes the next generation of scales. All right? That's how they grow. So if you are suppressing the eggs themselves with an oil spray, cleaning up the plants with an oil spray, they're not going to hatch, and you're not going to have to go out there and look for the fast-moving little tiny motile crawlers. The chances of seeing those, unless you're literally there waiting for them, is real slim. Professional gardeners, of course, professional landscape folks have to do that. They have to monitor them, and I have even seen in some big camellia gardens, they'll have a set of cameras there so that they can look every morning and see if anything happened overnight. I mean, they're that hard, they're that elusive, I guess is the right word for that. But if you know you've had a problem, then spraying with oil is going to help. If you have a camellia or a sasanqua or an Oregon grape or any number of other, wonderful evergreens that you planted in the last year, you can oil spray those too, because it's going to help to prevent those problems that we talk about.
I have a question for you, and it goes back a couple of minutes in when you started. Why in the United States do we not have more hedgerows? We have fences, but like Europe is just hedgerow city,
That's very true. That's very true.
My question, I guess, would be, is it that the conditions are not as prevalent here, or is it that we're just not as patient maybe in growing something that would take that long to
both
be
of those
impenetrable?
Things. Yeah, both of those things. We do have what we usually think about in the United States are tree lines or tree breaks, that will be between one field and the next. And that's it has that same kind of effect of changing the conditions or marking the row. But I do think that when we think about European hedgerows, we're talking about things that were originally the property definition in many cases. So they planted those trees so you knew where your property started and the other one ended. And because they do tend to be older places or older, longer inhabited by Western culture, they have been sheared off hundreds of times. I had the opportunity when I was in the Netherlands to watch somebody pruning a hedgerow that basically went zigzag up a hillside, and it had been there basically to direct the cows. It was like traffic cones, only it was growing plants. It had been there 50, 100 years. So I do think you're right. We don't have that. We don't have necessarily the need for it, but we also don't have the time frame.
Right. Well, here, America is very spread out, and there you had much more confined living.
Much tighter.
Yeah,
much
so
tighter.
I guess that makes a really good point as far as, if you were a tenant farmer, a sharecropper, working for the king, or however, you needed to know what your land was. And back then, I guess the hedgerow was the demarcation line. Yeah.
A lot of times it was. And sometimes between public and private. There'll be a it's not a copse, but it's almost that. It's like a thick hedgerow that marks where the king's property ends and everybody else's starts.
Well, that, and you read in real estate the meets and bounds, the description of those things. So it goes way back. You're looking at going back to England in the descriptions. So it's always fascinating to me that how you describe property when you don't have GPS
exactly,
and you don't have a formal surveyor.
These things? Yeah, how did we determine these things? Well, we had at least had hedgerows in some cases, and of course the maintenance of them is a big deal. So that's another reason we in the United States don't necessarily want to prune 4 times a year. And our growing conditions are so vigorous that we would be doing that. But when it's done, and you'll see like in a formal garden, you'll see boxwoods or something that have basically been done into the shapes around, they'll fill in all of the garden itself that's in the sections within that space. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of maintenance. What you will see in the United States, though, are Osage oranges used as fences, in the upper Midwest, because they're impenetrable. And I have known folks who planted Burford hollies thick enough so that the neighbors' children couldn't get into the yard. I have seen that.
That's pretty thick, huh?
And it's pretty
thick.
It'll hurt you.
Children know how to get in and out of stuff.
Well, and they were not old enough to begin pole vaulting over the hedge. So I think that would have been the next little piece of that. That was all about, I think that was figs the guy was trying to protect. I can't really remember.
Yeah, out in the county, you may have somebody that puts a four-wheeler on one side and a ramp and tries to jump it.
See, you never can tell. We're an innovative bunch, that's for sure. Oh, I love this. This is really beautiful. Sue is in Loosedale, my grandmother's hometown. This is the Venus orange from Gurney's back in 2014. Wow.
That's beautiful,
yeah. It is just lovely. She says the fruit is very astringent. I don't know that particular orange, but...
You can clean with it, though, huh?
Yeah, and I know it would make great orange oil, kill bugs, but I'm not sure if you can plant it in the ground or not. I'm going to doubt it, but I'll have to look that one up for you. Loosedale, I love that town. All right, now, we're going to take a look this up. Still looking for that tree. We'll be right back. I know that one is labeled Water Song, and I've never actually known if that was the name of it or not, but I just love that piece of music.
Yeah, with rain coming, I figured that would work good.
Yeah, it's just delightful, and, heaven knows, the South needs some rain right now. We're appreciating that. Really good stuff. Y'all are so fun. Sue in Loosedale's orange tree, she says it's astringent, and I've looked up the particular one, either Valencia or Venusia, either one. They should not be astringent. If you are growing if you're growing a citrus tree and it begins to only produce from branches that are very low on the stem below the graft, for example, that can be an astringent fruit, but that's not what it looks like here. I think in this case it may have been through a little too much drought while the fruit was forming. Oftentimes that will turn the flavor and also make the oranges seedier than they need to be. If that happens, you can almost always account that for a drought area. Then the other piece of it, of course, is the nutrition for the citrus tree. I use y'all know this. I use Espoma citrus or organic citrus food because I found it to be the one that I'm better able to use it. My trees are better able to take it. I know there are others, but if you are using a different product of citrus fertilizer, be sure you read the label, because the time that you apply the fertilizer also makes a big difference. And sure, you don't ever want to fertilize a dead tree. So give yourself the opportunity to do that. But it's a beautiful tree. I wish that it was, you know what we do, we human beings. We just do what we got to do. Nathan's hauling hay one bale at a time because he has to. When one thing breaks, we just pick up and go another direction, don't we? We have to do that. That's what we do. I like it. I think we're really smart. As human beings, we do pretty good. There's a lot of things that we talk about at this time of the year. Coming up tomorrow is a wonderful day for me. It's Mason Jar Day, and I certainly celebrate mason jars as much as I celebrate anything else. You can keep stuff in them. You can drink out of them. You can make, tomato sauce. I mean, you can do all sorts of things with them. But I think that's so funny that we actually have to take a day to appreciate them. One of these days, again, we'll be back to the cursive writing. One of these days, it's cursive writing week. It's the things that we don't think of all the time. Interestingly enough. They're discussing food on the text line, y'all.
Yes.
I'm sorry, y'all making me laugh. That's great. They're not throwing out the leftovers. They're turning them into leftovers. Very smart. Very, very smart. So you can have Mason Jar Day tomorrow. You can have Mississippi Day tomorrow. And perhaps my favorite of the moment, Personal Space Day. What in the world does that mean?
Do some cleaning out of the closets, maybe,
that could be
or just
part
stay
of
away
it,
from people for a minute.
Could be either one of those things. I think in some cases, it's really an understanding that it's okay to be by yourself. You don't even have to have anybody tell you that, Lance. You're by yourself in that studio for hours every week, and you're fine. But there are people who feel that kind of isolation is not comfortable for them. I think it makes you very comfortable. I'm the kind of person who likes to be around people sometimes, and then sometimes I don't.
Yeah,
so I'm a little bit more quixotic.
I'm the same way.
I've never been real good at working where there are 100 people around, because I kind of want to know what they're doing. I'm a little bit too curious, perhaps, but I don't want to be by myself all the time. I don't think you can write or do anything creative entirely in a vacuum. So those are all bits of things that I think about when I think about personal space. It really is part of what some folks consider to be too much. You have to get your personal space together. Well, you do, though. You actually do. Particularly in this day and time, I can get caught up. If you take me shopping with you, I'll probably spend too much money. But if I go get my own personal space figured out first and then we go, well, then I know how much I can spend. So it has different parts of that particular stuff. You don't have to feel like somebody's walking into your space. We used to talk about the approachability of people, and I've always been known to be very approachable, but I don't want you 3 inches from my nose the first time I run into you. You need to give me my personal space so that we can talk more easily. All of those things Some people would say that's why I'm in radio, because I like that distancing, that space. This is really interesting. Mike in Oxford is letting us know that the hedgerows were a big problem in World War II. They initially went up and over, but unfortunately they had to develop, because they didn't want to show where they had been, they had to develop a tool to cut through them. And this would seriously take up your hedgerow or anything else that got in its way. Thank you, Mike. That's something. We don't think about how hard tanks are. I mean, the folks that had to do their work in a tank, it's just scary to me. And
yeah.
I'm
hot
sure
too.
Yeah.
Even if it was 1 degree outside, it was burning up in those things, I'm sure.
Yep. Nathan, and also they're a target. I mean, they're sitting there, they're slow. Nathan's making turkey recipes now. Turkey in the crock pot for the daughter's baby shower. Congratulations. Did it Thursday again, injected with Creole butter and 30 minutes a pound. It was delicious. We had a Creole injected turkey this week. And at another point, after I know the name of the thing that we cooked it in, it was not fried, but it was cooked outside in a thing. It's a new thing. And it was cooked without oil, and it was absolutely spectacular.
Air fryer.
But it doesn't, I guess it's an air fryer, but it doesn't look like an air fryer. Mm-hmm. But wow, was it good. Anyway, so many good things to talk
there's
about.
Never
we're so lucky.
Yeah,
we're
there's
so
never
lucky.
a reason not to put the Cajun injection into the turkey. I mean, my opinion. It just adds, turkey being such a kind of it's a delicious but very lack of taste white meat. It's soft and very juicy and all that. It doesn't have a ton of flavor, so when you put that little bit of seasoning in there, it just really sets it off to me.
Well, and there's another injection recipe that goes rosemary and thyme, so it's more of a French thing, and that's delicious too. But you can't get past me. You bring the Cajun, I'm going to put that in there and love it.
I imagine the French know how to cook a turkey. I mean, you think about it. Benjamin Franklin felt that the turkey should be the bird. Plus, he loved being in France. That was his second favorite place in the world. So maybe it was the culinary pairing with a smart bird. I don't know.
The turkey is certainly, the turkey to me is very representative of America, because it's tough and it lives a lot of places, and it can live in a group or it can live individually. There's just all kind of things that are, the bald eagle is a magnificent bird, but it's more, it lives in a more rarefied atmosphere than the turkey.
Yeah, and it doesn't gobble.
And I think I do too.
Yeah, and it doesn't gobble. I mean, America's unique, and the sound of a turkey is probably one of the most unique.
Classic one. And Nathan tells us that an air fryer is a big convection oven. Yes, I believe that's true. I do believe that's true. Listen now, I got to tell y'all, if you're eating your leftovers, if you are cleaning out your refrigerator, whatever it is that you're doing, okay, I'm going to bring you the words of Warren Zevon this morning. Enjoy every sandwich. You don't know. We don't know what happens tomorrow. We don't know the next thing in the day. And if you savor every minute, when those folks come to visit, you're glad to see them. You may be glad when they go home too, but you're glad to see them. You savor every sandwich. You want a relationship in this world? This is Mama telling you. Learn to cook. You will always have a group of friends around you that'll be happy to see you when you show up if you know how to cook. And guess what? One other thing. Be a poet. Look inside yourself and find something that makes sense and write it down. Give yourself an opportunity this weekend to find your personal space. Enjoy yourself. Have some leftovers. See you next week.
Production of SuperTalk Mississippi.